Communication with your florist is an absolute priority when you're talking about wedding flowers and certainly designing an entire look for your big day. So I always think that planning for wedding flowers, the most important word to think about is collaboration. That it is an interaction between you and your design style and your budget and all of the things that you want and hope and dream about, and the expertise that your florist can bring. And so when you get together, the idea is that you're going to have a lot of inspiration. Maybe you have a lot of ideas. Look, maybe you have no ideas and you're happy to just sort of hand it off to this professional and have that person do everything. But my favorite way to work with people is that when they come to me, they have maybe some images they've pulled from the internet or from magazines, or just ideas or visions or things that have inspired them in their own lives, something maybe that's personal to them, a hobby or craft or something. They come to me and they want to incorporate these elements into their wedding, or they have an idea about style or palette or feel, and then we start to create a vision together of what their wedding can look like. And the expertise that I bring is going to be to know what's in season, to know what's fresh, to know what's available to them in that venue, in that location, what style will look good in that venue, in that location, and also to be able to be impromptu and to think on my feet. So a big element of being a wedding florist and trusting your wedding florist and communicating with your wedding florist is that the day of or the day before or whenever your wedding florist is getting your flowers for the wedding, there may be things that become unavailable that you had planned, or there may be other kinds of snafus, weather fluctuations, something like that. And so to trust that the person that you're working with is going to be able to make a quick decision on their feet about substituting some important element or working with whatever comes up. So that's really, really important. I think, the qualities of a floral designer that you want to have: somebody who certainly has some experience. Maybe they have worked in the venue where you're having your wedding, so they know the lay of the land. Even if they haven't worked in the venue where you're having your wedding, that you see enough images from them to speak to the style that you're interested in having. So if you have a very traditional, classic wedding that you're interested in having with the flowers, then make sure that they have enough pictures, and maybe you've even seen live, maybe you've even been to a wedding that they've done and they did your friend's wedding or your sister's wedding and you thought, God, those are really gorgeous flowers, and this is in a venue that and or in a style that I really love. And so you have some experience with their design that makes sense with the design that you're planning. And, to be talking to them very openly and honestly about your budget. I always stress this point, and it has to be somebody that you feel very comfortable talking about money with. A big quality for any vendor for a wedding, but certainly for a florist, would be somebody that you can communicate honestly and openly with about anything. And that person, throughout the entire time you're working with them, it could be up to a year or more that you're communicating and collaborating with your florist. So that person has to be able to be a good listener, to be an active listener, to be somebody who can change course if things change along the way. So these are all factors in thinking about talking to your wedding florist, communicating with that person. And generally, just like you pick any kind of vendor or professional that you work with, really developing a sense of trust if you feel like they're returning your phone calls, returning your emails, all of the other things about running a business that make you trust somebody. The same thing applies to a wedding florist.